So the prominent data miner Temporyal has come through with some leaks about Season 1, and I wanted to take some time here to talk about them. The name of the season, according to the leak, is 0 Hour, so let's take a look at what we might expect with this season's release. There's a new polar specialist going by the name Evelina Lise, whose specialty is a guided rocket launcher. To me, this indicates that we might see the return of the SRAW from previous games, but it might be locked to this specialist as their unique gadget. If that's the case, and this is just speculation here, this might be pointing toward the specialist being more focused into classes moving forward. Obviously this is just conjecture, but if Evelina can only have this rocket launcher, maybe that also means there will be restricted choices for the other gadgets. Maybe she'll only be able to choose between the repair tool and the mine. And this could extend to the other specialists as well. There's been a lot of speculation about specialist reworks, and DICE has still remained mostly silent on the future gameplay intentions for specialists. We still haven't gotten the core feedback for specialists yet, and I wonder if they've decided that the feedback they've already received is enough to start the changes. Personally, I don't think we need to go through the whole process of an official blog post and gathering feedback in order to start changing the specialists. I think the community has been pretty clear about the changes they want to see. We all know DICE isn't getting rid of the specialists at this point, so I don't expect to see classes in their traditional sense come back to the game, but hopefully we do see the specialists become more restricted into traditional classes. Next, we see 2 new helicopters coming to the game, one for the US and one for Russia. Both are stealth choppers with 1 pilot and 1 gunner according to the leak. While I don't often use vehicles myself, I'm happy to see more variety for those that do. As expected, the exposure map is looking to be released in this season along with a couple of specific playlists to play the map all the time. I'm excited for the new map. I really hope that future seasons see more than 1 new map per release. What we're seeing here is indicative of future seasons. This is looking like we're going to have a pretty light amount of content by the end of the game's life cycle. I really feel like we need to see anywhere from 2 to 4 maps per season along with the reworks. The Battle Pass is coming. Nothing really interesting to say here. Looks like a carbon copy of Warzone's Battle Pass system, down to being able to buy a version with 20 tiers unlocked immediately. I assume the price point will be the same as well. Temporyal was unable to definitively pin down weapon releases with this leak, and that's another point where I think DICE really needs to come with a swell of content. The game already launched with very few guns to choose from, and we're going to need a lot more to hold us over to Season 2. My fear right now with everything we're seeing is that this might be a rather light content drop, and even if it's all really great content, there might not be enough to hold players' interest for the entirety of the season. The weapon customization system is pretty simple, so there's not much time needed to grind out attachments and come up with new builds. The lack of any mention of Portal content is also making me pretty nervous. I'm getting increasingly afraid that Portal is going to be neglected the same way that Hazard Zone was and might potentially die an early death. A particularly sad thing about this possibility is that I don't think it would take much to revive Portal from a feature standpoint. Persistent servers is really the big necessity here, and I think it would instantly give Portal a shot in the arm. Obviously, more content, maybe from other games like Battlefield 4, would also be a great addition with new maps and guns for the Portal servers, but really the persistent servers is what we need to keep this going. So that about wraps up my thoughts on the leaks. There's not too much to go over at this point. But I also wanted to take these last minutes to talk about the dev video that DICE put out recently. I'm sure you're all aware, but in case you aren't, DICE recently put out a huge dev video where they kind of went over the future direction of Battlefield 2042. As a broad stroke, I think a lot of the changes are good. The changes to the existing maps are exactly what everyone has been asking for, and they look really great, but I'm really concerned about how slowly they're rolling out these changes. I've discussed this before, but the cadence needs to really be sped up. Personally, I think a decent idea would be to just implement what they already have, even if it's unfinished, and then just continue to iterate on it over time. Anyone still playing this game has kind of accepted the unfinished nature of it and might be more lenient about this type of approach. Getting some content is better than none. And if we're only getting 1 map rework per season, that would mean only 4 out of the 7 would be seeing reworks overall. Honestly, they all need major overhauls, so we really need to see this sped up, and ideally I'd like to see all 7 maps reworked by the end of Season 3 maybe. For all the dedication the developers claim to have to this game, the relaxed pace of their progress feels very alarming, especially when coupled with the very inconsistent communication. Adding Rush as an all-out warfare mode is great. I really missed it. It's one of my favorite modes from the Battlefield franchise. Bringing portal guns to the main game is one of those common sense changes that really should have come a long time ago, but I'm still happy to see it. I've seen a lot of criticism online about the portal guns after this video dropped, citing that it's just recycled content, and to me that's just an absurd view to have. Every shooter franchise recycles weapons over multiple titles in this series. I think the guns from Battlefield 3 and Bad Company 2 especially actually fit in the world rather nicely. They add to this feeling of a makeshift war zone that the game presents. Looking at conflicts in the real world, there are certainly older weapons that see action, and it won't be any different 20 years from now. And with new weapons and content being brought to Portal, ideally we'd see some of that content also brought into all-out warfare, and that could really help boost what we get moving forward. I was generally disappointed though to see so little talk about Portal directly. If I remember right, this is mostly handled by Ripple Effect, and that may be why it wasn't heavily featured in the dev video coming from DICE, but to me it's still the long-term hope this game has, and the players need persistent servers and more content to really take Portal to the next level. Hopefully as we approach Season 1, new details will drop officially and we'll see a ton of information from Ripple Effect regarding Portal. Finally, there's still no mention of a server browser for All Out Warfare, and at this point, I get the feeling it will never have one. At the moment, I doubt there are enough players in All Out Warfare specifically to really sustain a server browser or really make it all that useful, though that does present the problem of maps repeating themselves several times since lobbies disband after every match. But I think the thing that makes this a bit awkward is the server browser for Portal. Logically, we can do everything from All Out Warfare within Portal, and it kind of makes me wonder what the point to All Out Warfare is at all. We've already seen DICE drop support for Hazard Zone. It'll still be there for you to play, but there will be no new content for it. And at this point, there's just an awkward overlap between All Out Warfare and Portal. There are official featured experiences that you can matchmake into through Portal, but not through All Out Warfare. And like I said, you can do everything in All Out Warfare in Portal. I think moving forward, especially as we approach the end of the game's life cycle in about a year or so, that Portal and All Out Warfare should maybe be consolidated into one thing. So then when you launch the game, you're just brought directly into Portal, and you can still click a button to matchmake into an official DICE server, or you can just use the server browser to look at community servers along with those official servers. Personally, I think this is cleaner and makes the most sense, and as soon as we get persistent servers, it just seems like the logical direction that this game should go. There is still the question of how progression and XP would be handled in this scenario, but as we move toward the end of the game's life cycle, that becomes less important to consider. But that about wraps up my thoughts on Season 1 leaks and the recent DICE dev video, but I want to hear from all of you. Are you excited for Season 1? What content are you most looking forward to? Do you have any thoughts on the DICE video? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next video.